Welcome to the Lost Signals Discusses Film and TV. Using the revolutionary Manzur-Mossi Thurlow scale,
or MOTS,
we scrupulously review these art forms with an emphasis on narrative structure. Join us for another entertaining episode.
Hello and welcome to Lost Signals Presents Film and Television. I am your host, Richard Perry, and tonight we're going to be reviewing Avengers Endgame, the culmination of 22 films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Indeed.
And it goes without saying, spoiler alert.
Yes.
Because we're going to be talking about a lot of this movie.
A lot of it.
In depth.
All right, tonight I'm joined by Luis Duran.
Good evening.
Scott Thurlow.
Assemble, my friends.
And Christopher Morgan.
Yeah.
And whoever's going to come up with the funny logline is it me?
Yep, I think it was you.
All right, I guess I'll pick one of the...
pick one of the hat.
Pick one of that. Let's see. I'm kind of leaning on Avengers. When is Gamora?
Decided that was one of the top ones for sure.
But yeah, I guess Scott, you're kicking it off with plot first.
All right, yeah. So as you mentioned, Rich, this is the culmination of technically not the end of Phase 3 for MCU because there's one more, but it's the big one that all the other movies have led up to. It's part 2 of the Infinity War. So, I mean, there's a lot happening, but it's mostly Thanos fucked up everybody, the whole universe in the last movie. Now the surviving Avengers, who happen to be mostly the original ones, plus Ant-Man, Scott Lang, they're trying to cobble together life. They come up, Scott Lang shows up, is like, hey, in the quantum realm, it's only 5 hours. Time works differently. We can use that to our advantage to fuck up Thanos, go back in time and get all the stones and bring everybody back. So they essentially do that. There's a whole bunch of team 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for each stone, 6, I guess, teams. And they go throughout. It's sort of like a romp through the previous movies. Like, for example, they end up in the war from Avengers 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, they get all the stones, assemble them, and are about to... Thanos also gets wind of this. Therefore, of course, he comes to, knowing that he'll get the stones in the future, comes to get them from the Avengers now, which is making his plan easier. And a big battle happens, and they eventually they sort of reverse it, and they make him and his army dust. And unfortunately, though, this is perhaps one of the many spoilers, Tony Stark is fallen in battle, and Steve Rogers decides his last mission is to put all the stones back. It's an important part of their plan. Once they get them, fuck up Thanos, they got to put them all back to the time zones that he's got them from. And he decides to live his life with Peggy. It's implied, actually not implied and shown. And then he comes back an old man and passes on the shield to Sam. So that's pretty much it, man. Like I said, it's the culmination of 22 stories, big and small, that have led up to this moment. And yeah, it was all damn well done. So for looking at scores, having said all that, I may give it a 2. There was nothing wrong with it per se, but yes, it was long. We'll say that. It was 3 hours. So just to let you know what you're getting into. And not that I guess it's more nitpicks, but I don't think it deserves a 3. It was a very strong 2. Yeah, they did a lot of awesome stuff and juggled a lot of things because of so many characters, so many things they had to, again, sort of reference and balance out and insert into the plot. But I don't think it was super amazing. It was the best culmination that they could have done, for sure. But I don't know if it deserves enough for a 3, but I'm not married to a 2. So having said that, I'll open up to you guys. What do you think?
Right. Who wants to hop in?
Well, I was going to say, as I was telling Scott precast, was that one of the greatest strengths of this movie was that a lot of it was a lot of the film was a talkie. I mean, there was a lot of which
moments and stuff,
I love, and even when the action got hot, there was all these character moments that I loved. But also it reminded me why I like Winter Soldier, Black Panther, Homecoming, Doctor Strange, those films better because I like the smaller scope films. So it's kind of like the big ending battle was exciting because of what they did with it. Like when I first saw Avengers, I was kind of like, okay, more biomechanical aliens. Wow, haven't seen this 800,000 times before. But in this one, it seemed to, and I mean this in the best way, it seemed that there was a lot of fan service. Like when all the women got together and were like, fuck this. First of all, when they had the relay of the gauntlet, I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
But then
it's not a style, but you're right. It was all in there.
Yeah, but just from from like a narrative thing, you can see that, okay, in the midst of these actions, you still have these pockets of people that are working together that trust each other. It's like, hey, we're handing it off to you. We're handing it off to you. So what I'm saying is I'm going to give it a 3, even though if I'm going to rate the film, it's probably not a 10 film. It's not my favorite Marvel film, but what they did with it, they maintained, like even in the action, they maintained the character development and the trust between them. Because even though, okay, you may not have worked with Valkyrie before, but they're through association.
We're all in this Infinity War together.
Yeah, you're all in this Infinity War together. But I am going to say one thing, and I agree with Beth, is that the one thing that they blew was not acknowledging at the end Bucky and Cap's friendship. There was more with Sam and more with everybody else, but in the Russos
saying it was a misstep there.
Yeah, well, there's 3 films devoted to their friendship, and the Russos, who directed 2 of those films. So I think that was a misstep. It would probably, if this was not a binary scale, I'd probably give it a 2.5. But I really have to say, it didn't feel the time. And I thought they really kept the character running through, like the action scene. Well, the end battle, while gratuitous, it felt earned. Let's put it this way: the way they did it, it felt earned. It wasn't.
Yeah, I feel you.
So that's why I'm giving it a 3.
Yeah, for me, I'm definitely leaning on 3. As you said, Scott, it is a 3-hour movie. It does it for on occasion. It felt long, and
like it's weird, right? It didn't feel long.
Yeah. Well, here's what I'll say. Like for some movies that we've talked about in the past, especially when I've been on, like the length, it can usually when I bring it up, it's to the detriment of the movie. For this, I felt like, this is going to be compared to Infinity War, as it should, because it's kind of a part 1, part 2, but they made it clear that these are standalone films. Regardless, like there was a pacing to Infinity War that I didn't feel like it took me out. Like when I rewatch it now, I think of maybe the only scene is the Gamora when she's a child and with Thanos. But that's only because I know what's going to happen. I know, like, that's him going through his philosophy, like her adolescence, and her adult life clashing together.
Sure.
But anyway, with Endgame, it was sometimes it felt like I was taken out of when they were hitting on pacing, and then there was a slight misstep.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I'm giving it a 2. Like probably just for that sort of sensation, I guess.
For me, yeah. Well, then I like in the broad scale of things, like going with what Chris said, like for everything they had to work with, what they did put together, and what they were able to execute, I loved it. It's a 3 for me, just because I wouldn't be able to with such an ensemble cast. Like it's crazy seeing like this is a comic book film. Like as Dark Knight, it can generally be considered, like we were talking about that before the podcast, and like compared to Infinity War and everything. Like even Infinity War was a little more grounded somehow, I feel. But this was like when we growing up, like reading the great crossover events and everything. Like this is
this is something I never thought I would see on screen.
Yeah. So for me, yeah, it's a 3 for me. But I had to bring up those concerns as well for that reason.
Yeah, I'm giving it a 3 as well.
All right.
Like the whole ride was smooth for me. Like even the slower stuff at the beginning of Act 2, just the world building that it took the time to do and to show the results of what the snap had caused within the past like 5 years. Like just especially the conversation with a Cap support group.
Yeah, true.
When the guy was like talking about his date, and he's just like, yeah, we both talked about how we missed the Mets. And I was just like, oh shit, like sports teams, like
things like that. Yeah.
TV's probably like gone out the.
And the thing I like about this is because they did do a lot of callbacks, but they were all in service of something. So that really called back to Winter Soldier when Sam had the support group. Mm-hmm. So that actually spoke to his friendship with Sam.
References to the previous film.
So I like films when their callbacks are character and not just winks to the audience. And I think this film, a lot of the callbacks, were as with the ending battle, organic.
Yeah. All I'm saying is like the point I'm taking away here. I'm definitely going to shift to a different question, but it's a super strong 2 for me for sure. And I was on the fence, but I just, again, those little moments, because there were enough of them, like build up just enough for me just to knock it down a bit. But certainly it was still fucking very impressive for what they did.
Fair enough. So that brings us to Chris with themes.
The themes, sir. Avengers are awesome.
Theme
Fuck
me.
Thanos.
The theme. Well, I mean, obviously, there's a whole thing of teamwork, sacrifice.
I think the latter is the biggest one I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, definitely sacrifice. And that's one thing I have to say about this and the last film is like there was a cost to everything, which I appreciated, and that even with sorry, spoiler.
We already gave the warning.
Oh yeah, with Natasha's death, that was as dramatic as it had to be, but there wasn't any kind of lingering whatever. Anyway,
I see what you mean.
Yeah, so like themes, it sacrifice was a big theme. Family, obviously, they kept bringing up family was a big theme. But you know what? It's really funny if we're talking about family and teamwork and so forth. It does come back to character to me. I'm like sitting here thinking, okay, I'm rattling down all the themes, and there was nothing like with It Man. We discovered there was much more of a unifying theme. But this one, I think it is definitely one of those. Those were the major themes coming around, and I felt that they were earned. All the character, I'm like there was like kids and stuff in the audience and like teenagers and stuff. I'm like, I'm loving all the really slow stuff. I like all the talky stuff. I'm like wondering how many people here are bored, but a lot. But to be honest with you, these themes seem trite, but the way they were executed, I thought was well done. So unless anybody has a bigger theme than that, because it's a comic book movie, there's not going to be, with a lot of shit going on, there's not going to be like the Winter Soldier. I could go on about the theme about soldiers and so forth. This one is definitely, you got those three things and that's about it,
Now, your last couple of sentences pretty much like what I'm going to say, that yes, the theme of sacrificing like to save your family / like your loved ones and so forth, like, or no, the whole planet. Like that's almost always going to be part of a superhero story like this, especially on the scale that it is. And yeah, like I'm not saying it's like fucking shallow or anything, but nor is it like super deep. It's just there as part of being a hero / superhero.
I'd like to shoot out a deeper one.
Okay.
That every character experienced through this whole movie is remembering where you came from and what you have built yourself up towards.
That's actually a fair point too, for sure.
Like,
it definitely was there.
Everybody had a chance to everybody had a chance to look at or
to like
come into contact, reflect, come into contact with their past.
Mm-hmm.
Nate and Natasha more so like verbally, where they talked about like who they were now, and which culminated in Natasha's sacrifice. Like she couldn't have pictured herself doing that, even like around like Avenger time.
No, that's a
and
good
you
point.
have like a Nebula getting the chance to literally murder her past self, who she hated, who she was. And now is able to take on the older sister role with Gamora and possibly even Mantis.
Yeah, it's funny that her character might be the one that turns Gamora in the next film, whereas like it was the opposite in the first like few Guardians films. Well, the one thing that for me is redemption, like what ties into yours, because it's every single one of the Avengers, even some of the like the secondary ones that came in later, like they were able to interact with past versions of themselves or see who they used to be and how far they've grown. And with Natasha having Red on her ledger, Clint getting his family back. Another huge thing that I realized that in the first few Avengers movies, like they're not really avenging because they never lost.
Right.
Yeah.
And with the ways that they did lose, it's like they're disconnected. Like they didn't know anybody in Sokovia. They didn't know any, like they didn't lose the battle in New York. They just thought that they were going to lose and like that this is the reason they were together. Like no, like them having lost, like this is them actually avenging. Like they're not the what was it? I think somebody said we're not the Revengers, we're not the pre-Vengers. Like we have to lose to gain the name, like, and now finally, like this is it. Like now they are the Avengers. Like even Thanos is like, let's finish this. Like
they've earned the title, they've earned whatever prestige that comes along with it. Like everybody's gonna know what they did
and the respect,
like across the entire cosmos.
No, you guys are right. Those are two very good points, because I was going to mostly build on Chris's point, but it's pretty impressive, like I said, that all that stuff is there, given, again, for like the nature of it being a superhero movie. But I think we can all agree that the superhero movie has evolved, and this is certainly one of the ones in the iterations of that. And yeah, all that stuff was really well handled. The character stuff for sure, which maybe we'll get to again in later questions. But that plus the redemption thing, I like that as well. Yeah, you're right. It was all like nicely woven, and each character had a moment or like a scene or so forth to like exemplify that as in terms of their actual character, and then them as a whole.
You know, we're talking about like character a lot, and I'm so glad that the Russos did take over these two films because like Winter Soldier is still my favorite film, and for all the problems Civil War may have had, the character stuff's really strong, and even more so with their writing and their directing than even Joss Whedon, who's very good with character. So I thought this is a really great. I'm actually really impressed with what they've done.
Yeah, man.
With this film,
for all those reasons, I'm giving a stronger one than I would have originally, but I was giving themes a one regardless.
Definitely a one.
And I think we all are.
Ones all around. That brings it to me for antagonist, which is Thanos.
Is it though?
That's what I was gonna.
Right, here's the one that I was hinting at precast. So you first, and then I'll say what I'm gonna say.
I mean, yes, and yeah. I think I'm gonna go wholehearted with Thanos.
I mean, yeah, it's him on paper.
I mean, yeah, but he is the cause of all of the strife of the movie. Like
for sure, I'm not gonna argue that.
Yeah, his crusade has set everybody on their path within the universe after the snap. Like that's all him, and they have to live with his decision. And even when they find a way to go back and change it, he catches wind of it and tries to fuck up.
Still crashes the party.
Still crash the party.
Ruthless. Like that past self is ruthless.
Yeah, when he shows up and lays waste to the compound immediately, I thought that like half the team was dead right then and there.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Like I thought Scott was like.
I thought especially Scott.
I thought he was vaporized, and like my jaw like hit the floor watching that happen. And yeah, he may not.
When Scarlet Witch was getting the upper hand on him too.
Oh yeah,
and he's just like fired. Sure. He's like kill all like he's like not like I'm not gonna die.
But all of his decisions, even though he didn't win in the end, everyone suffered for it. Like everyone, like existence suffered for it.
That's well said.
Well,
sure.
That's one thing I was gonna say. Like especially in the coming from the antagonist angle, is like there's no one in the universe that was not affected by Thanos, which is like chilling. But he's the driving force. Usually for me, whenever I go like, I mean, to support or to go with what Perry's saying, like whatever's the driving force usually. Like this one, obviously they were compelled because of the actions of Thanos, but then just like the time thing, like they got so caught up that they incidentally like have Thanos interrupt their plans when he finds out about him.
It's just every time he gets involved, there's just another ripple.
Yeah, man.
They lost members because of him.
That's all true, like to a degree. I don't disagree with it, but I guess my take on it is this: the repercussions of doing with like he was the villain in Infinity War, like for sure, 100%. Now, like in terms of this movie, like they literally kill like the first version of him at least, right? In the first 10 minutes, like Thor chops his head off, which was fucking awesome. Don't get me wrong, but like after that, he's not like in it because of that. Like, so yes, it's weird because they're dealing like with the ripples, as you said, of him, of his actions and what he did in the previous film. But for the most part, they're trying to figure out like a plan. And so they're not like fighting him per se. And yeah, until the end, the final battle. But even then, I felt he was overcome. Like, yeah, it was a cool battle. It looked awesome. It was awesomely shot. You know, no complaints, and speak more about that in style. But I'm saying, antagonistically wise, they still like overcame him. Like, it seemed quick enough or like easily enough. That's how I got it. It's just weird to me. So like I'm just saying that was my initial take on when I was thinking about it when we got out of the theater and what to give, like what I'm going to give antagonist.
Like, because I see where you're coming from, like, but like
that's my angle though. But
for somebody to literally throw down the gauntlet and have repercussions for ever.
Yeah. Let me saying like I'm saying I came in this one thinking that, but you guys make good points, so I'm gonna see what Chris has to say about all this.
When you said antagonist, I thought you were going to say entropy.
I mean, that is always the antagonist, of course, of anything, of even Thanos.
Yeah. Death comes for us all.
No, again, as I'm often say that, an antagonist can also be a catalyst, and even if the catalyst
In this case, the most cataclysmic catalyst ever.
even
sure.
if the catalyst dies in the first 10 minutes, I mean, when it's like this, okay, we all know that because of the franchise and for a number of other reasons, we know that there's going to be sacrifices, but we know the Avengers as a whole are going to prevail. But good filmmaking or good storytelling makes you wonder if that's possible. And when Thanos came back and he sent Nebula back, the younger Nebula,
like she was almost more of an antagonist than he was for like the action she was driving.
No, for the action she was driving. But I'm going to say that Thanos always, when bringing Nebula into this, and when he attacked the compound, and I thought Hulk was going to die there, but I didn't think Ant-Man was going to die.
You all thought someone else.
Yeah,
but
but
you thought half the team died.
Well, yeah.
How did you think that Hulk was going to die over Ant-Man?
No, I because they didn't have any plans for, honestly, because I didn't see any plans for any solo Hulk
was
movies. And
metagaming it.
Yeah, exactly, and I knew they had
right.
more Ant-Man stories to tell. But there is who's gonna die when. I actually felt that even him doing something like sending Nebula out was a threat. I mean Thanos. So Thanos did come back, but it's kind of a spin, like what his younger self versus his older self. Who almost killed himself destroying the Infinity Gauntlet. Thanos has never been. I don't know. He's one of these characters that does something bad, but he thinks he's doing it for your own good.
I mean, but that's what many villains think they're doing.
Well, no, but executed wise is not always the
Sure.
case.
But I love that, his younger self, as soon as he found out that nobody was happy with what he did, he just became a straight up fucking villain.
Yeah.
He's just like, I'm going to kill everybody. I'm going to kill everybody, start over. So that everybody worships me as the god that I'm supposed, not as the god that I think I am.
Yeah, and I'm going on that, that speaks paramount about, how his character developed while he was obtaining the stones, because he was very more rational. Even though he was a little crazy, he was still rational. He didn't go out for blood unless he absolutely necessary. It was absolutely necessary.
So he did say he was impartial until the end. Then he was like, "I'm going to crush you now."
Yeah, he was legitimately just going to kill Tony in a peaceful way, not putting him out of his misery, so to speak. And he didn't kill any of the Avengers that he had to, besides Vision. But this one, he was just like, you know what? I'm going to recreate the universe in my image. You guys had your chance. I'm done. And to have them jump from A to Z, seeing the gauntlet there, he was just like, nah, fuck that, I'm
Ungrateful little bastard.
Yeah.
I teach you all.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys might have convinced me because, like I said, I was taking that angle, but the more you talked it out and the more I think about it, that was my gut reaction, coming out of it. But I think I will, in fact, end up giving him one because of that, because of the retroactive, again, actions that then bleed over into this movie. And the speech / turn at the end that you just mentioned.
But that's also... go on.
Sorry, I just find it hilarious that his whole quest for the Infinity Stones created the Avengers who were able to grow in power to defeat him eventually.
For sure. But yeah, I'm going to switch to one. Good call, boys.
But, I mean, that him coming back and then all of a sudden becoming a straight-on villain, I thought was kind of an interesting way where you have this complex character, and then just because he's frustrated, he's like, fine, I'm going to become what it is. So what I'm saying is it kind of plays into the whole character thing of the story.
Sure.
It wasn't like, hey, we need to bring...
It's like the dark mirror of looking at your past self.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we need to bring Thanos back. No, actually, Thanos is now changed because of this experience.
No.
It would be hilarious if, for some reason, present day Thanos came back and he just hated his younger self so much that he helped out the Avengers beat him.
That'd be a crazy story for sure. But no, does that mean you're giving it a 1?
Yeah, I'll give him a 1.
All right.
Because again, time movies like this are so easy to fuck up, and the problem with a lot of reset buttons, is because as long as one person is affected by it, or is changed by it and can change the whatever reality on a smaller or larger scale, to me, it's always worth time stories like this are always worth it so long as you can do something with it. And I think they really, in Thanos, once again, they really took an opportunity.
Yeah, that's all fair.
That's all. I had to get that one last little bit of thought on.
I'll agree. At the end of the day, well done.
Yeah, so one's all around, and that
Yep.
brings us to Lou with protagonist.
Or is
Yes.
Yeah, it's a well, going this is kind of like going to touch on themes as well that the main six
Yeah.
are at the forefront in this movie. Like they're the ones that kind of started this franchise, so to speak, and they're the ones that go through the most character arcs, or like they complete their character arc.
Yeah.
Although I wasn't as, I'd have to rewatch the movie, but I was not. I think I put Thor pretty low on my list just because I was like not expecting. It definitely subverted my expectations of what was going to happen in the movie, and I grew a little tired of drunkard and lazy, upset Thor.
Beer
But
belly
I
Thor?
get it. I get it. Well,
Lebowski Thor.
yeah, it wasn't until like the end when he was like talking to his mother. I was like, oh damn, like okay, now I see where they're coming at.
Yeah, it was one of the character moments we were
Yeah,
mentioning here.
and Hulk embracing finally like Bruce embracing Hulk. However that tandem works.
I thought that I feel like he was my favorite throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, I definitely have to
Just,
rewatch again just for
seeing
that.
the Hulk with Bruce's mannerisms was something I didn't know that I needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was quite well done. I agree with that.
Like especially like my favorite bit with him. Well, besides the whole like when Thor has his hand on his collar and he's just like, "Please take your hands off me."
Yeah.
Like you forget he's the Hulk. He's just like, "I will fuck you up if you don't take your hands off me."
Mhm.
But when when Scott gets his taco blown away, when he's sitting in the when he's eating lunch in the landing area,
Oh yeah.
and then it's like Hulk, like Bruce just like walks by, hands him 2 tacos, gives him a grin, and then just like walks off to go grab Thor. And it's like him and Rocket's little day adventure.
Oh yeah.
It's a new Asgard.
Yeah, it was all quality for sure.
So yeah, like for me, it was all of them were very compelling, especially seeing Tony in the beginning. Man, when he got rescued, I love everything that they did with him. I mean, he's the one that started it, right? So it was very fitting. Although I would rather see it end in a wedding rather than a funeral. But,
Sure. But I mean, it was still a very complete arc, as you said.
yeah,
And really fulfilled for
I gotta
him.
say, yeah, for everyone, like I have to give it a 1 just because everybody's secondary. Besides this was their movie.
just for them to have the last scene be Steve finally get his dance with Peggy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It was just so perfect to me.
Yeah, it was very heartwarming.
And then
for sure.
finally seeing them together, like fucking Steve using Mjolnir, and like
Yeah.
even Thor's just like, I knew it.
Yeah. Again, that's a character callback to Ultron.
Yeah.
Yep. And yeah, it all paid off for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't see how you can give anyone a 0 for protagonist because, yeah, it's the original, more or less, like you said, the original Avengers, the ones who survived, that just happened to be, the ones who started it all. And yeah, they did a great job. All the actors always have. And what they were given with the script gave them so many awesome things to do with each other and as a whole. And yeah, like, the secondary cast is fucking like 20, 30 people, right? Like all the other characters that aren't the Avengers are in this movie as well anyways. So sure, we'll get to that in a second, but I'm absolutely giving them all a 1, especially for like some of the more fulfilling arcs that you, if not, maybe you didn't expect them, but even if you did, like they did a damn good job of showing you what you wanted out of that.
Yeah, I'm giving them 1. I thought they did a really good job. It's great. I think they even like rounded out Burton's character.
Yeah.
Because a lot of ways.
Sure.
I mean, there was that joke in even Ultron. It's just like where he and Scarlet Witch are talking about like, what are they doing here?
I got a bunch of arrows.
I've got to understand.
Is it robots flying outside?
Yeah.
Flying on a floating city or something like that?
Yeah, I'm floating. None of this makes sense. But it really, I thought it really rounded things off. I think it rounded off his relationship with Natasha, which, she saved him in Avengers. And
saved your ass in World War II and saved your ass in World War III, Infinity War 1.
But now she saved his ass. I mean, it was just, I just, and again, Peggy, the dance, that whole thing. They did a really good job of rounding out the 6 of their arcs.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Like I said, I don't think there was any way we could ever give them a 0, or the protagonist question here a 0.
Yeah. So I guess
Yeah,
start
we'll
the
go
one
on.
Scott with
All right, so
supporting.
that leaves everyone else who isn't the original Avengers, right? Like,
Pretty
I
much.
guess we'll say, like, technically, like, Scott Lang Ant-Man was more of their crew. Like, he shows up early, he figures out, like, gives them the impetus for what the plan they're going to do, and they include him in a lot more things. So I'll lump him in there, too. But, of course, like, every other Marvel character, and even, like, secondary, like, T'Challa, and then Shuri, and and they're like the whole army there, Okoye, everybody, Bucky shows up, like everyone is fucking there, at least for last battle, Valkyrie, and they set a lot of them up beforehand as well. And of course, like, it's going to be cool to see them do that, like all the Guardians and so forth. So yeah, man, and I actually thought Nebula had like you said, speaking of the arcs, while she wasn't protagonist, I think her arc was one of the strongest and the coolest, like how it shook
like
down.
Hers is pretty much like the entire B plot.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it focused a lot on her, which is like maybe a bit unexpected, but still, like, they did a good job doing that, and it all made sense. It all tied together. It all tied this movie together, man.
I mean, I was like, because like she had a pretty big arc in the original story, and I am impressed that they were able to work that into something similar to that into
and that's really cool. So yeah, for sure. Again, like, because it's probably like the biggest cast of any movie like this ever. It's like the Ben-Hur of fucking superhero movies.
Yeah, I remember being excited. I was like, oh, I'm going to see like 40 superheroes fighting, and it turned out to be 40 fucking thousand.
Yeah, so like, even given that, again, like, it's impressive that they have so many things to juggle, and they give each of them their moment, even if it's a small moment or like not as big, like versus some other things.
That's all you need.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially in an ensemble.
Yeah, and the moment they gave them were fucking incredible. So,
like when Tony hugs Peter.
Yeah,
he's like, okay, this is nice.
Right. I didn't even mention him, but exactly.
Yeah, he's telling him, he's just like, hey, I think I was just gone for a little bit. Like, yeah, like we were just on Titan.
It's like when we woke up and now she's just like, it's been 5 years. We need to go help everybody.
It's time to explain. But yeah, for sure, I'm giving them all a strong 0. All 30 other ancillary characters who showed up. Like, even
say a strong 0.
A strong 1. I'm sorry. I was mid burp, but yeah, one of your favorite characters, Tilda, showed up.
I was gonna say Tilda Swinton. Yes.
Yeah, well, they brought back
that's what I'm saying.
But
I wasn't expecting Robert Redford to come back. I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting a de-aged Howard and Hank Pym.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you catch the old Ant-Man helmet?
Yes.
On the deck.
I did. Yes. They panned through it.
And the thing is, I mean, because if you listen to this, everybody knows what a Tilda Swinton fan I am, and I liked the fact that they paired her and Mark Ruffalo together. Like, you had two really quality actors, and you had Bruce, who is all science and all, and reason, and she's like all the mystic in the reason. But there's some. It was just such a great little scene. Like, there's so many great little scenes, but this one could have just been a quick throwaway thing, and they picked, as with all these things, they paired all these characters right.
And I appreciate that she was so open to talking to him about it. She's like, first I'm going to knock you out of your body. Now let's start over, so I can figure out exactly why you're here.
Yeah, it was all those were very nice touches, and like, they all got, again, like a little moment to shine, variously, and it all worked super well given for everything they had to include in this movie.
So
one's all around for that, of course. Yep.
I was close to actually knocking it down because I felt like some of them, like Captain Marvel, like, I thought like kind of was.
She was fine. She played her part.
She was the Deus Ex Machina once or twice.
Well, near the end.
But you kind of needed that.
But yeah, like, and it makes sense. Like, they did throw a few lines in there.
Exactly.
But then I was like, damn, like, I was expecting more. But like I said, it's not weighing down the movie so much because it's for what it is. Yeah, whatever.
All right.
She's doing her thing. So Chris, that brings you to dialogue.
Yeah. While we said there are a bunch of great little lines in here and great little callbacks, I really loved every character interaction. I loved the slow parts. I loved the things when like, I'm gonna start crying when Scott goes and sees his daughter. He's just like, you got big. I mean, these weren't a bunch of.
There's so many touches like that.
Yeah, but these weren't like little quips. Like, there were some quips in it, but there were some little lines that said so much. And the dialogue was naturalistic. It was just very. I
think it was that and more.
Yeah, the thing is, part of what makes this movie great, and I think is what makes the best of these films great, is the character interactions. I mean, it was like my favorite stuff in the first Avengers film was all the talky parts, and this time the talky parts did not disappoint at all. I really enjoyed it. If it was like 4 hours of them hanging out, talking about this, I would have been right there with them. Like, it wouldn't have bothered me. So I mean, I have to give it a 1, because I thought the dialogue was great, from quip to sentimental little throwaway thing. I was with him 100%.
Yeah, can't really add much to that.
Yeah,
I'm mostly good.
I mean, I always like going back and thinking about things that I do remember because we've seen so many movies that there's instances where I'm like I can't think of a single line in the dialogue that is just me just paraphrasing what they said, but all of Tony's dialogue is just even more with him sacrificing himself to and, like it just weighs even more on your heart, and I just like damn, like that's it.
Like the one that always like that completely got me, and the one that keeps playing in my head is Pepper telling Tony he can rest now.
Oh
Yeah.
God, yeah. Oh,
Hey, man,
It's
it's
gonna be
he's-
okay.
Yeah, because he's like all these films, he's just been so worked up with trying to protect everyone, and for her to be like, "Nah, you did it. You did it. It's
The
done.
job is
We
done."
don't have to worry about it anymore.
and
Like
even
you can finally be at peace."
in Iron Man 3, he couldn't sleep. He kept building all the suits. And then, where he called back to Ultron, he's like, I told you we needed this thing. And he's like, but no, nobody wanted to sacrifice their freedoms for it. It's just like you had seen how, it did. You could see how crazy this had made him throughout the course of all these films.
No, I agree. It was great. Like the levity moments were spot on, and like the more heartfelt, sincere moments also. Like it was a perfect balance of those. And again, like everyone did a great job delivering, and the script and the actors just came together amazingly. And yeah, there were so many. Like I don't want to like fire them off, but we precast where it's like, oh, remember this moment, remember that moment, like this little interaction.
Oh, I mean,
All of it was fantastic.
Avengers Assemble. Like, listen,
Yeah, they-
Yeah.
I haven't been the biggest fan of that saying. Every time I read it on the comic, like in the comics and everything,
It seems
I could always think,
right.
and I would like it wouldn't hit my ear right, and I knew that it was coming, and it was perfect.
This time it was done.
It was earned. 'Cause it was earned.
Absolutely
I
perfect.
think
Yeah.
I think what made it even more perfect is him fucking catching Mjolnir.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah, that was just like icing on the cake. Like it was
It's like,
cap
hey,
off.
I'm gonna make this line work.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic,
With
and
the broken shield and everything, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
dialogue is getting a very strong one from all of us.
Hail Hydra, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that-
that was like
Oh my God.
I remember
That
looking
line.
at you, and I was like, "Oh, we're just gonna get a recreation of the elevator fight." He's just like Hail Hydra. I'm like, "This smooth
brilliant, yeah.
motherfucker."
Well, yeah. Prior to the cast, we were talking about like how all of them have just gotten older, and now Cap's just like, I don't need to fight anymore. I can use my brains. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
can just
like
be
when he
like,
uses
yeah,
when he used the Bucky line on himself.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was going to mention that one too. When he was fighting his past, I was like, I can do this all day. Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
Like that was like another.
That is America's ass.
Yeah, all that stuff is fantastic, and like again, like the heartfelt interactions.
Let's go
like,
get that son of a
the
bitch.
reunions.
Let's go get the son of a bitch.
So,
Oh
yeah.
my god, that line.
It was fucking solid all around.
Yeah, one for sure.
So that's me with
Yep.
recommendation.
Nope.
No style.
Style, baby.
That's right. Yes. Skipped one.
One of the awesomest ones.
This movie. So I prepared myself for seeing something amazing because, of course, it's a culmination of 22 films. You got like everybody coming back, and they've had like each Avengers movie. They've had like a splash page style
Yep.
fight where everybody plays their part, and this took everything before it, added it together, multiplied it by whatever, and just blew my fucking mind. Like everything. And that's just like the last fight. Like everything preceding it worked for me too. Like from just the shots of a deserted New York, how haunting that was. Like just that,
Yeah, man.
that like the shot,
looked cool.
the shot of the island, and then nothing. Like
Going over City
no,
Field, they
Yeah. There's no noise. It's dark.
Oh, and I loved all the boats tied up around the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah,
Wait, there's no wildlife. Like, there's no
yeah.
like you don't. There's barely any. Well, there's flora, but not fauna. Like,
Yep.
Well, well, at least the oceans are being reclaimed because Cap
Yeah.
was saying
Oh,
that
yeah.
he saw
The
some
pot
whales.
of,
Spot of
humpback
whales, that's right.
Yeah.
But that of course the quantum suits, the attention to detail with bringing everybody back to each previous movie.
Mm-hmm.
No, 100% agree. I mean, like, yeah, it's a fucking Marvel movie. They have the biggest budget in the world to make this stuff look cool, and they do that and then some. Like, for sure. Again, I don't see how anyone could not give this a 1 within our own scale. Yeah, it looked incredible in every single scene. And like the stand-up one's like, oh shit, like a big one's coming. But even the small, like you said, small touches, like the deserted overshot of that. Like even when Scott Lang was like going through his neighborhood, and that was like a small town, also ravagedly deserted. Yeah, and the soundtrack was really, really cool as well, for sure. I thought you might mention that.
I love the the mix, the songs they picked. I love the ones that they had because they were all based off of Rocket listening to Quill's music on the ship.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was like he took point on the soundtrack of the movie.
Yeah. It's awesome.
And I love that he was able to carry that bit of Peter and the rest of the Guardians with him and impart that onto the rest of the Avengers.
Yeah, man. Yeah, like again, there's no way they're ever gonna get a fucking 0 on this, and I think they did a better job than they've ever done.
Yeah, the score was great, but I'm going to say the single best use, Dear Mr. Fantasy, when they used it, the way they used it was
that one got to me.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I was just like, they used that the right way at the right time, the right song. It was great. Alan Silvestri came back because he did the original. He came up with the Avengers theme. And
I can't wait for the soundtrack to come out so I can listen to the rework for when the Avengers army shows up.
Yeah.
I like the drums hit and
Yeah, it was all, it's fucking like the hair is raising on your back of your neck, like it's going to be fucking sweet.
Yeah.
And like this adds to that as well. For sure. Anyone else about style?
yeah.
I think
nope.
I think it's very clear.
Yeah.
it's very clear that all of us are giving it a
Yes.
1.
Yeah.
The highest of ones.
Mhm.
So Lou, bring us home with a recommendation.
Oof. You guys might hate me on this one. I can't give it a 1.
Is that right, Rambo?
It is the culmination of 22 films. I know people in my life that haven't seen the previous ones.
Mhm.
I can't, in good faith, tell them to go see this movie. I'm not saying they have to go see all 22 or all 21. I'm not saying that there's ones that they have to be forced to watch, but you would be lost. And it wouldn't make much sense, and I don't think you'd have fun.
That is a fair point.
Oh my God.
So like I was thinking about that too. I was gonna wait till this to bring it up. I didn't bring up it to any of you precasts. That's kind of the only one problem, right? Unless you're not invested in the MCU. So it's like a double-edged sword because many people on Earth, or at least like in pop culture, would be. But if you're not, and if you've only seen a handful, or if you don't care, then you're not.
If you think this is just another superhero movie,
You're going to be wrong.
You're
gonna
wrong.
have
It's the last chapter of a book.
yeah, and there's literally people out there that, well, like we've mentioned before, like the superhero fatigue. Like there's so many movies coming out that people like can't keep up, or people
not
don't
like
want
us,
to really
can't
don't
keep
want to
up.
keep
Yeah.
up. You know, like I don't go see the Fast and Furious movies, and
No.
but like I can't. I know what they're about. Like, come on.
Sure.
But with this one, like, hey, listen, I want to say everyone can go and see it, but like you even mentioned before, like you like the parts with like the dialogue and everything, and there's children in the theater. Are they gonna like it? I don't know. Like my nephew's 13 now, and he's only seen I think 3 of the movies. I don't know if he'd like this movie.
My
I
nephew's
get
watching
you.
the old Twilight Zone. My nephew will like this movie when he
All right.
sees it.
You can have a nephew
sounds like
too.
it sounds like you're going to make him like
No,
this movie,
no,
whether he wants
that's
to
one
or
thing.
not.
It's
He
one
will
thing.
like it.
That's one thing I'm proud of it, because if you have something like old science fiction or something, it's a lot of talking and bigger concepts. So I have
get
to
you.
give that caveat. Yes, I'm completely biased, but I'm going to be like, at least my nephew would like this. But yeah, but I totally see where you're coming from. Where it's just like, it is its own movie, but it's also part 2, but it's also the last chapter of a larger work.
Well, here's my angle. This is the most objective recommendation, of course. Yeah, I'm gonna recommend to everybody. And if like someone's like, I'm not really in the Marvel movies, I'm like, all right, we're done here. Like, I'm not speaking to you anymore. Like, sorry. Or like, we'll talk about something else. But so of course I'm gonna recommend it. But you're right, with that caveat, which is probably a bigger one than you might get normally. Sure, like it's the culmination of this huge investment.
It's a very good point, and the movies have officially hit the point that the comics have where there's continuity lockout.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's again like that goes hand in hand with that,
especially
yeah.
with like now where we're headed with time travel and alternate universes. Like that's
Yeah, it's a lot to handle. It's a lot to ask of like your average
It's only
movie
gonna get more convoluted as we go
for
on.
sure.
yeah.
But I'm gonna give it a 1
But
for
like
recommendation.
I'm gonna join you in giving it a 1 just because I'm always gonna recommend these types of movies no matter what. But at the same time, like I completely understand where
Yeah.
you're coming from, Luke, because I was thinking of the same thing.
At this
Like,
point, like it's harsh if you haven't really like only been
going to
tangentially.
going to see Black Panther with a friend of mine, and I was like bringing up stuff from Civil War, and she's just like, "I've never seen it." I'm like, "Wait, what? You've never seen Civil War introduced him into the movies?"
Yeah, so you won't get as much out of it, or like anything that calls back to it. Like you have no connection to it. Yeah.
But see, that's the. I always compared like Captain America: Winter Soldier to Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, and something that's that's something that's established that you could really walk into it, and it's
True.
just a good film.
Like Winter Soldier is a very good movie,
But I'm also going to say that, like with my favorite ones, like Black Panther, he was introduced in Civil War, but you can see Black Panther without really knowing anything else.
Sure, this one
Spider-Man was introduced in Civil War. You could go into Homecoming, and so to me, it's just like. Those kind of movies are easier to recommend because Ultron, they're
a bit more standalone.
This isn't like Ultron where like you can't just walk into Ultron. You can't just walk into this.
One does not just walk into.
Actually, like if you're watching Endgame without at least having seen Infinity War, then you're fucking doing something wrong. Like why are you even watching this?
Yeah.
Now you're
why is this guy stuck in a spaceship?
What are these stones? What's that? Yeah. What is this all about?
What are these stones? Like, who's that glowing?
What does this all mean? And why
this guy with the goatee?
Yeah. Who's the purple guy?
Who's the robot woman?
Yeah, all that is valid. Like, sure. So, like, yes, that is one thing to consider. But I feel as if, like, since our circle runs and more of the shit, obviously, then I'm gonna recommend it. But I'm not gonna begrudge you either. Like, it's a very good point and totally fine on that front.
No, I totally see where Louis is coming from. Having said what I said reinforces that, but by the same token, I'm going to recommend it to most everybody because let's put it this way, you're either in it or you're not in it. You either like these kind of films
you're either dust or not. You're Avenger or you're not.
Yeah. And it's something I'd be like, go out and definitely.
It's like I'm not really into Marvel movies.
You are now. You will be.
What's happening?
I don't feel so good. Sure.
I'll say with 3 1s, 1 0, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
That's all right.
It's all good.
Yeah, because as I said before, it's not a perfect film. It's by going by our narrative scale that was designed to be. As we said before, you can give low scores to films you love.
This one is the most objective question, as I said.
So I am going to probably say that the sum of the parts is better than the whole, but the sum of the parts.
You got to know the parts.
And also, I am also cheating and not counting this movie as just this movie, but all 22 movies rolled up into this one.
Yeah.
Which is the sort of the issue that Louis said.
There's a couple movies I'd leave out of that.
But all right. But as a whole package, I get what you're saying.
Like I would have happy with seeing Mantis and not knowing where she came from and having skipped Guardians too.
All right. Take it easy. Well, I think that's all the scores in. Shall I give them out? Any final thoughts before I do that? All right. So, Chris, well, even you just said so, but you gave it a 10, and Rich also gave it a 10. Louis and I gave it 9s. Which will be a 9.5 overall, which, I think stands. It's a damn good movie, especially within the pantheon.
Absolutely.
Actually, it really works out because any trepidations we had with the plot, you took the point off for the group. Any trepidations we had off for recommendations, you took the point off there.
Balance to the universe.
And we didn't need a gauntlet to do it.
Brought balance to this podcast.
Yes, exactly. Didn't even need any stones.
We just had to collect all Infinity mics.
That's our quest for next season.
With 6 podcasters.
Yes.
It'll be our own like Avengers like war scene.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
Endgame. Just everybody who's guest starred.
Yeah, so look out for that.
Exactly.
That'd be ridiculous. Logistical
see.
Complications.
We're working on it. We'll fix it in post as we fix everything.
Yeah, that's been our review of Avengers Endgame. Hope you enjoyed it.
Take it easy.
And I hope you're excited for our next get together.
Yep.
I have been Rich Perry, joined with Louis Duran.
Have a good night.
Scott Thurlow.
Bucky's alive.
And Chris Morgan.
Good night.
See you next time.
Take care.
Editing and engineering by Christopher Morgan. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates. Or mods?